Today I'm making cauliflower in tahini, and it is a Palestinian, North Palestinian dish that Mom used to ask me before I traveled to Jordan. And she said, what would you like for lunch tomorrow? And I said, that one, and it's called Zahra Tahiniya. And she made it with meat, and I like the vegan version of it. So I decided to show you how to make Zahra Tahiniya, which is cauliflower in tahini. It is a simple dish to make. You'll be amazed on how simple it is and how delicious it is. So this is a cauliflower that weighs about 1 kilogram. I have about 150 to 200, about 200 grams of onions. I will caramelize the onions in butter, and then I will grill this. Typically the cauliflower was fried, but I don't want to fry food. I want to remain healthy. So what I would do is coat this with olive oil after I cut it, and then I would bake it in the oven at about 180 degrees in a dry oven. I remember one time my mom made this dish, and she asked me if I wanted rice with it, and you know, rice went very well with it, but I like bread. So soaking bread in tahini sauce that is made with lemon was the best thing on earth. And then she said, wait, before you eat this, she sprinkled a few pine nuts that have been roasted, and that memory just stuck with me. So I wanted to share that beautiful memory that I have of my mom, and maybe you all can share it with your own children or sisters, brothers, and whatever. So let's start with making memories. Starting with the onions, all we have to do is just cut the onions into 2 halves. So I've peeled the onions, and now what I would do is just cut them into slices. Nothing too fancy, nothing too sophisticated, because I'm going to caramelize these onions in a pan with butter. So just simple, about 1 centimeter thickness, not too thick, not too thin, so they can hold shape, but at the same time not be too big to bite in. So about this size. Yep, so these are my 2 onions. As you can see, they're beautiful half circles. So I'm ready to caramelize these onions. I'll put them in a pan with about 15 grams of butter. So much butter that it's going to taste amazing. Transfer these onions onto here. Put in a little bit of salt so the moisture can be released out of the onions. And I'll place them on medium heat right there. While the onions are caramelizing, I'll show you how to cut the cauliflower. So we start at the root. As you can see, it's really tight. So I'll start at the bottom, and it starts to release itself, as you can see. There. I want large pieces. So this is a good large piece because it reduces really, well when it's in the oven and it bakes. So I'll cut these like that. So I'm done with chopping the florets and cutting the florets out of the cauliflower. So that looks like a very good specimen. I'm ready now to coat these florets with olive oil. So I brought in my favorite brush, very handy utensil. So just get a little bit of olive oil. Yeah, just cover these. Don't be afraid to get messy. Okay, so let's just coat all these individually before we put them in the oven. Done coating these, I will just sprinkle a little bit of salt on top. Again, it allows the moisture to be drawn out of the cauliflower. I have preheated my oven at about 180 to 200, and it's a dry oven, so I've preheated it. This is going to bake in the oven. They're ready to go in. This is pretty much, halfway done. The next thing I'm going to do is wait for the onions to caramelize and then prepare the tahini sauce. All right, in with these into the oven, and they're going to bake for about 25 to 35 minutes, and we keep an eye on them. They need to be slightly soft, but not too soft. All right, in we go. So while the cauliflower is baking and the onions are caramelizing, I'm going to prepare the tahini sauce. This is about 300 grams of tahini, pure tahini paste. Tahini is so good for you. It is ground sesame. The word tahini in Arabic means ground, and they just gave sesame ground a name called tahini. So I'm going to empty the entire container of this jar, and as you can see, it's very thick, so I'll flip it upside down. So you can just pour into my mixing bowl. And with that, I will add about 600 milliliter of water, warm water. And after I mix the warm water with the tahini, I will add the juice of 2 to 3 lemons. I am going to use 3 lemons in this because I am going to reduce the amount of salt I put into my tahini and my food. So I'm substituting sodium, high sodium content with acidity. This is a good trick for everyone to reduce the salt intake. I'll put the lemon juice to the side. So I'm going to add about 2/3 of this with warm water. It's not hot water, it's lukewarm, maybe slightly a little warmer, to the tahini sauce, and then I will whisk it up. It's going to become a little liquid, and I'll show you how liquid it is once I whisk it together. I think it's still a little thick. Like I said, it's about 2/3 to the 1/3 of tahini. So if it's 300 grams of tahini, I'm going to add about 600 milliliters of warm water. So this is a good consistency thus far. So I'm not going any further with this because once I add the lemon juice, this is going to thicken. Then I'll add the entire amount because I love lemon juice. It's great. And now it's become a thicker, beautiful tahini sauce. Yeah, my tahini sauce is done. I'll set it aside. Check on the onions that are caramelizing. I'll bring them over. Yeah, we're perfect. They look good. Look at that. We keep this aside and wait for the cauliflower to bake. Okay, now that we've done our mise en place, everything is set. The cauliflower are baking. I want to garnish my cauliflower plate with my favorite, the one I mentioned to you earlier, how my mom did it, is by adding roasted pine nuts, pine kernels. She did it with olive oil, so I'm using the same olive oil that I coated the cauliflowers with. And I am adding all that in here in the pan. This is going to go on high heat. And these are great pine nuts from Turkey. They're thick and lovely. So I'll just add the whole thing. This is about 100 grams of them. Why not? It is very important to keep an eye on these pine nuts as they fry because they burn very quickly. So once they start to brown, we take it off the stove because they continue to cook as they absorb the heat from the pan. So let's keep an eye on these and start to fry them. Okay, now they are starting to fry or roast. I can hear it. If you can. Yep, they're popping. That means the oil in the pine kernels is popping out. Yeah, they're starting to brown. I'll switch the heat off and continue to fry this in the pan. They're roasting within the pan in the olive oil that is really hot right now. Okay, these are done. I'll take them and hold them in a ramekin somewhere. I'll place them in this ramekin that I used for the olive oil earlier. So I'm just pouring the entire thing in here. They're roasted, they're brown, they're beautiful. I'm gonna try them. Yummy. There's nothing better than roasted pine nuts. Right, the cauliflower is now baked, ready for the components to mix together. So the caramelized onion, the sauce is ready, and everything is ready to go back in the oven for about 5 minutes. I'll take out the cauliflower and then add the components over here. All right, let's do it. Oh, yummy. This looks amazing. Okay, and it smells superb. So I'm taking it over. Well, now I'm going to add the caramelized onions. I'm going to spread it all around. And these are beautiful caramelized onions that have a little bit of sweetness to them. Okay, let's pour all that in. Goes in all with the butter. And now I'm ready to add the tahini sauce, and this is going to go straight on top. Ooh, yum. This is the moment of truth. This is joy. So I've covered the entire pan with the tahini sauce. Okay, it's ready to go back in the oven at 180 degrees. So this is going to bake for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'll keep an eye on it because the top of it is going to be slightly grilled. So let's take them back. All right. Great. And now we wait. Okay, moment of truth. Ooh, listen to that sizzle. It smells so good. You should see what I'm seeing. Here we go. It's coming out. Beware. Hot, hot, hot. Very hot. Okay, here we go. Gorgeous. Wow. So, I'm going to plate this, and I want this to look pretty. My mom made it pretty when she served it to me. So, I'll take the best part, and that's the grilled cauliflower, right in the middle. Now I want a little bit of caramelized onions on top, so this is gorgeous. And more sauce, so I'll just pour some sauce on top. And that's good enough, I think. Maybe a little more. And to dress this up, a few sprinkles of sesame, just to reflect what this is made of. Sesame paste, tahini. Yeah. My favorite is the pine nuts, a handsome amount, because I love this. This is so delicious. Okay, don't tell anyone. And just to make sure that it is pretty and green, I've chopped a few sprigs of chives, and then I'm just going to add some color to that. And there you go. This is your cauliflower tahini dish. The one that mom taught me how to make, the one that mom taught me how to dress. And I can recommend this to anyone. It's a vegan dish. It's absolutely delicious. And it just reminds me of North Palestine and childhood. So let's dig in. The crew is impatiently waiting to taste this. Bonne Appetite. Sahten.